I know nothing about the Zed Ex Speccy beyond what I learned from Larry Bundy Jr. that it's British. Most of its games never left Britain, and people who owned it were starving for games, apparently. Oh, and it can also only display 6 colors: red, neon green, neon teal, yellow, purple, and white on black backgrounds, which is rather limiting. We're back with Ultimate Play the Game, the Proto-Rare, who actually got their start on the old Speccy, making the kind of games that system could handle, which seemed to be mostly one-screen maze games. Like Sabre Wulf, the first entry in the 4-game Sabreman series, which had at least 2 cancelled games and would cameo in a few more. Sabre Wulf is a maze game, a genre that more or less doesn't exist anymore, at least in anything resembling this form, and initially released in literally 1984 for the Zed Ex Speccy, although it would get ported to other home computers at the time, the BBC Micro, Commodore 64, and Amstrad CPC, versions which would be ported by other companies due to how much different these devices were from the Zed Ex Speccy, and have slight graphical changes but otherwise remain largely the same. But the game would be saved from the annals of history by Rare Replay for the Xbox One in 2015, and it is an interesting bit of Rare's history in some way or another. Sabre Wulf is a big maze, with the goal of finding 4 pieces of an amulet, then reaching the cave at the center with it to earn an advertisement for a presumably better game. You wander around the world's most brightly colored forest and find them. The only thing that separates Sabre Wulf from being a huge, boring maze is enemies, the common ones taking the form of birds, bugs, and snakes, which can be killed by attacking by holding down the attack button, which can and should be done indefinitely at the cost of a small bit of speed. The problem is Sabreman only kills enemies horizontal to himself, and as a maze there's lots of vertical tunnels where you just die and die and die, and sometimes you go through level transition and just die, and sometimes you die and then you stand back up and an enemy's already on top of you and you die again, and sometimes the bigger enemies, rhinos that run left and right and can only be warded off with attacks, tribal people that chase you and can be warded off with attacks, and the titular Sabre Wulf, who is invincible, can all pass through screens unexpectedly to eat up lives. A lot of getting through the game legitimately seems to be purely dumb luck and a lot of routing foreknowledge to find the randomized amulet pieces, a problem lessened by Rare Replay's Infinite Lives cheat that essentially makes the game a really weird walking simulator, although it doesn't quite make the game more fun. Also, in a game comprised entirely of straight lines, it's crazy that you can get hitched on the environment and get stuck. It feels very icky and frustrating, especially when you're trying to enter onto another screen and some enemy just comes up and kills you while you're finicking around. Although I do like the general Sonic the Hedgehog type speed of the game. Perhaps the game is just a relic of its time, but it's very hard to get invested. The map is like a Zelda map, with everything interesting yoinked out in favor of near or completely identical rooms and only a handful of landmarks to aid in any kind of navigation. Mostly the mountainous border of the map and the central cave, although there are also 5 small huts that can be found in the jungle, which serve as kind of landmarks if you know the map really well. It's an immensely disorienting game, even for a maze, all while punishing you constantly with something spawning on top of you or door checking you. I don't want to say it's aged badly, but it is a game in a dead genre for a reason and lacks any of the flair that could have pushed it along. There are power-ups in the form of 5 flowers, which are nice, I guess. They're a little bit of spice. They pop up randomly from buds, and sometimes they're there, and sometimes they aren't. Red is invincibility, blue is supersonic speeds and invincibility, purple is invincibility with the downside of reverse controls, yellow is a screen nuke and also invincibility, but you're stuck in place for a while, and white returns you to normal, which I guess is really only useful for purple, since you probably want to be invincible. Maybe it's supposed to be like a trap and just prevent you from rushing every flower you see, I don't know. Outside of yellow and white, these are all welcome little gifts that give you a brief reprieve from an unending hell of wildlife. Yellow is a bit of a trap though, as staying on one screen for 15 or so seconds causes a fire to come and kill you, but they are a little flavor to a very flavorless game. To be fair to Sabre Wulf, it's not its fault that it's only able to utilize neon red, yellow, neon green, neon teal, and hot pink. Every Zed Ex Speccy game is limited to that, and Sabre Wulf makes the best of it. As easy as it is to call it repetitive and garish, because it is, I think the actual sprite work is pretty good for the console. The flora that makes up the walls of the path utilize red for tree trunks, the teal a little bit for what seems to be shading on some of the leaves. Sabreman is almost chibi, kind of cute and cartoony, almost like an Astro Boy. And the collection of wildlife are all simple but solid. The native people may be a bit in bad taste, but even then, they stand out well, and I think they're kind of silly and cute. The music is about 10 seconds of some box song for the title screen, which is Not much. The actual in-game soundscape is very chaotic, primarily because of the digital pitter-patter of Sabreman's walk, which slowly melds into an endless rhythmic annoyance. Although the animal spawn and death noises are fairly satisfying, even if the whole game is kind of just a cacophony of digital beeps and boops. Sabre Wulf is an incredibly simple game, but not in the charming way that an Asteroids or Pac-Man is, where it's an infinitely replayable, fast-paced mastery challenge. It's kinda just an hour of aimlessly cruising around a maze getting cheap-shotted by grasshoppers. It's somehow simultaneously extremely painful and extremely boring, janky and odd when you're getting snagged on pixels, but also way too simple to be entertaining, and man is it the most disorienting game I've ever played. It looks decent for the machine it was on, although the Speccy is so foreign to me that I really can't say that with 100% certainty, and I could not tell you if this is an ambitious title for the system. The most interesting thing about it is being a very early Rare title, and that's doing a lot of heavy lifting on the interesting. Outside of the historical value of being a piece of that history and earning a spot in Rare Replay, it's really hard to imagine anyone but the boomeriest of boomers looking fondly on this little game.